Hello and welcome to Sports Psychology Screencast. The focus today is going to be on confidence and self-efficacy. Now, confidence is absolutely huge in sports psychology, huge in sport, huge in life. Okay, if you have confidence, you've got way more chance of either participating in something, achieving in something, your performance is likely to be better. It's very rare that somebody with extremely low self-confidence will perform well or even participate. So, I'm a massive believer that confidence is the biggest determinant in high achievement. Okay, sometimes you look at elite performers at the very, very top level, their confidence is low and it looks like they're a beginner. And that makes it really important for sports psychology, for your sporting performance yourself, and of course for exam specification content, as you can see down here. So if I have a quick look then, let's start off here. You've got the things you're going to have to know. You need to know definitions of two key terms: sports confidence, self-efficacy. You also need to have an understanding of kind of the impact of sports confidence on your performance, participation, and self-esteem. Now, the key focus, we'll have a look at this today, and we'll also have a look at this kind of model of sports confidence proposed by a theorist called Vealey. So we'll have a look at how different things interact when we're taking part in sport that will actually dictate how confident we are in a specific situation. So that's what we're going to have a look at as we go through today. Now, if I just kind of go through from here then, I mean, I'll put this picture on here. Here we have someone that will just lead us into what we're going to look at here, the impact of sports confidence on performance. Now, you could say Conor McGregor hits a hugely confident person, verging on arrogant. And for a long time, this has had a really positive effect on his performance, okay? Extremely successful. However, I do look and think, the most recent things that Conor McGregor's done, both in the Floyd Mayweather fight and also the most recent fight, you look and think, has that verged on kind of overconfidence? And sometimes that can then lead to a decrease in performance. Let's go and have a look then, our key start point. Let's get a quick definition of confidence then. So we'll have a look at, first of all, sports confidence. You have to know this as a definition. This basically refers to the self-belief an individual has in their ability to be successful in sport. It's a generic, it's a global term because it's the self-belief, sports confidence. If you think about just translating that into self-belief, okay, an individual has in their ability to be successful in sport in general. Okay, that is a generic. It's a predisposition to be confident. So we have a look at that going down them. So what we need to have an understanding first of all is the impact of this kind of generic, this predisposition to be confident in sport. What's the impact on performance, participation, and self-esteem? I think it's pretty straightforward. It really, really is straightforward. You have to have a two-pronged response. You have to say, if they have high sports confidence, this will lead to a certain level of performance. If they have a low sports confidence, it will lead to another level of performance. So it's that simple. If you have high sports confidence, you're more likely to have a high motivation and thus performance. And conversely, if you have a low sports confidence, this is going to lead, sorry, that's a typo there, a low motivation, which lead to a low performance. So that's pretty straightforward, I think. So make sure you change that one there. Thank you. Going on then, participation. So what impact does sports confidence have on participation? Well, I think we all know that. We've all been in situations where, confidence is low, therefore it stops you from really wanting to take part in certain activities. Okay, you might have gone to a fitness class, you go to that fitness class, you hate that fitness class, and then you decide you're never going to go back to that fitness class. It will decrease your participation. So if you have a look down here, you're just going to put this into words, and if you get these key bits I'll talk to you about in a minute, high sports confidence then will lead to an increased participation, and this is really important here because we use this a little bit later or in tomorrow's lesson. So you've got due to approach behaviours. So this basically means if you are someone with high sports confidence, you're more likely to approach situations in which there is a competition element. Conversely, you've got down to here, low sports confidence will lead to a decreased participation, and this is due to kind of avoidance behaviour, okay, which is basically where people reluctantly they move away, they won't approach these situations, they avoid it at all costs, as I mentioned earlier. So the final one then is to do with self-esteem. Self-esteem is an interesting one because I think it really links to the fact that your confidence will lead to kind of different ways of attributing success. So I'll put it down to here. So high sports confidence will lead to high self-esteem. That's the basic thing, that's the easy thing, and I've just put here if you can just justify that by saying it's due to internal attributions for success. And that's the type of people, their confidence And this will lead to a healthy self-esteem, because when they are successful, they will always attribute it to things they controlled or were internal. So we're looking there at effort, ability, just a reminder of that. Going on from here then, low sports confidence will lead to a low self-esteem, and they will kind of use internal attributions, not for success, but for when they fail. Okay, and this then can lead to learned helplessness, which can have an overall negative effect on this global term of sports confidence, which is up here. So this is the first bit. This was actually the exam question last summer of 2018, and basically that was just, and I'll show you it in the lesson, but so it just said, explain the impact of sports confidence on performance and participation. 4 marks, just had to give it 2 angles, high, low, this means that. And I think that's relatively straightforward. Now, what we have to look at now is a model, okay? And the model is Vealey's model of sports confidence. So I'll show you it up here. So Vealey, you might want to pause it now, just get a quick make a kind of quick diagram of this model. So Vealey's model of sports confidence then. I'll leave you just a second just to get that paused and copied. Now, what we're looking at here then, and before I even start talking about the terms, it's really, really important you understand the kind of arrows and the way this is structured. It's not a hierarchical model, okay, because it's more dynamic than that. But to start with, the things at the top massively impact everything below it. So the first key thing you have to get into your head is, when you're talking about confidence, 3 things, direct things, will underpin everything that results in your confidence. What do I mean by that? So these 3 top terms then, they will interact, and if they interact positively or negatively, this will dictate whether you have a high level of confidence or a low level of confidence. So the first one is something called trait sports confidence. So trait sports confidence, if we remember that term trait, you should remember it from earlier in the year, trait equals trait. Okay, that's that innate, stable and enduring predisposition to be confident in a wide range of situations. So I've just shortened it in here to fit it in the text box. So it's innate, stable and enduring predisposition to be confident in a wide range of situations and sports. For example, you might be kind of confident in football and badminton. Okay, you might have 2 things that you're confident in. You might be confident in more than 2 sports. On top of that, you go on to this thing called objective sports situation. So objective means measured, okay? So this talks about the situation, the sports situation you're going to be measured in. So for example, this could be translated into the skill that you're going to undertake. And then finally, we'll go on to competitive orientation. Now, competitive orientation simply refers to the degree of competitiveness. How competitive are you in a kind of a situation which is competitive? So for example, let me put this into words for you using the example I put over here. Trait sports confidence, and if you think you're taking a penalty, okay, that would be this, the objective sports situation. The skill to be undertaken, for example, a penalty. Okay, from there, this will interact with 2 things. Firstly, your innate predisposition to be confident in a wide range of situations, and it will also interact with this concept of how competitive you are. So if all 3 of those interact positively, for example, you're a confident person, okay, you have an innate predisposition to be confident when taking a penalty, and you're extremely competitive, those 3 things would have a positive kind of implication. So that then, those 3 things would interact positively, and that will then take us down and directly impact the next 3 things in the model. And I think that would make sense. So if we have a look onto here then, let's just get that section done here. So you're starting off here. These 3 interact to directly impact the level of state sports confidence. Now, you've used the word state before, okay? You've used it for state anxiety. So do you remember what state anxiety meant? And hopefully that would help you with the next section. So state anxiety, state sports confidence actually refers to the situation-specific form of confidence. So if all 3 of these have kind of positively interacted, this will directly impact state sports confidence, e.g. situation-specific confidence, e.g. confidence when kicking a ball for a penalty. This then, and I'm sure you've all been in that situation, you're positive, you're kind of confident, you're really competitive, you go to take a penalty, you feel confident when taking penalties specifically in a situation-specific kind of environment. This then will directly impact your behavioural response. Now, the behavioural response is basically how well or the competency of your execution. So that means, in kind of example terms, this directly refers to how well you strike the football, if we're talking about a football kick, okay, a penalty kick. So, you know that if you're kind of confident, all these things are positively interacted, and it comes down to here. You hit that ball sweetly, straight through the sweet spot, okay? And then this will directly link to your subjective outcome. Now, subjectivity refers to kind of the subject, the person, interpreting or perceiving what they think happened with the kind of outcome. So once you've hit it, once you've had your behavioural response, this will dictate. So say, for example, you struck it perfectly, hit the sweet spot, straight in the stanchion, top corner, okay? Your subjective outcome, your perception or your interpretation of success will be positive. Now, what happens as a result of this? If you have a positive subjective outcome, this then will go back up. This is why it's a dynamic model. And this will then increase your trait sports confidence and your competitive orientation. So we'll have a positive effect again on these. And tomorrow's lesson, we'll have a look at the kind of impact of this positive subjective outcome. What does it mean for the performer when they've took that penalty? And secondly, we'll have a look at the negative effects of a subjective outcome. Okay, so, the effects of a negative subjective outcome. For example, you miss the penalty, you sky it, all this stuff was negative. Okay, so for example, you're not very confident in sport. Okay, the skills of penalty, and you're really uncompetitive. You hate being put in a situation where you know people are watching you and you're competing against other people. That meant your state sports confidence, your situation-specific confidence penalty was low. You hate taking penalties. This meant your competence of execution was poor, e.g. you scuffed the shot. Subjective outcome then refers to this kind of perception, interpretation of success. You can't help but interpret a success as a failure. You failed. So then that will mean that you have a negative trait sports confidence, and it will also mean you have a negative competitive orientation. Now, we will have a look in tomorrow's lesson at particularly the effects of this negative subjective outcome, the negative effects of us missing a penalty. It can kill people. You know, you really have to look at the England football team, apart from this year, okay? In all the years gone past, has caused massive problems with the kind of almost as a national epidemic, really, of kind of poor penalties. So that is something we'll have a look at tomorrow. Please make sure you have a good understanding. You've got this model written out. Okay, you understand that you've got to explain each component, and we look at how the top three factors interact to directly impact everything with an arrow, going down, going down, going down, and then we have to follow those arrows back up. Models are extremely important in sports psychology, so it's really important you get your head around this before lesson. Okay, thank you.